Hey everybody, Dave Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Aly Garrett. She is the founder of All In Advisory, which earned Startup Firm of the Year. She's also a top 50 cloud accountant, as well as a top 50 women in accounting. We started seeing her name pop up, goodness knows where. It's all across social, all these awards that she's won. We had to have her on today's episode, so we're so excited to dive into her journey building her firm. But first, Aly, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to come on board.
Absolutely. Well, folks not familiar with All In Advisory, briefly give us an overview of when you started, the types of services you provide, and who you serve.
So we started in October 2018. I'd say we started with a big bang. We had some really successful wins really early on. And we focus, I guess, on the advisory. We like to flip the compliance on its head a little bit. So we do transactional or bookkeeping, we do the tax, accounting, and cloud accounting and integrations, and also advisory pieces. So, the full gamut of services. And we exist to empower business owners to achieve their why. And we do that through innovation and technology. And we really want to thrive with them. It's about having a relationship with them. And it certainly resonated well with our client base and contacts.
Yeah. And you mentioned you started with a big bang. And the thing you told me before the interview, which was like objectively you started out with a big bang, is you said you met your 5-year business plan within year one.
Yes.
Right. So how did this happen? We're going to unpack so much in this interview, from the structure to the team to how you got the clients. But, first and foremost, in year one, what was the client acquisition like, just to even get to a place where, that system was running? Was it all referrals? Was it some kind of network? What did that look like?
So in my career, I'd worked in professional practice for about 25 years, and I'd built some really great client connections and networks and contacts. And so when we went out, I guess I had a pretty loyal client base that was already on board and wanted to come with me. I had a really good exit from my prior firm. I was always very open and transparent with them. And so they were able to, I guess, let us go. And I had a team and some client base behind us. But I guess what we were trying to do was to move a bit more into that advisory space and have a relationship with our clients. And so a lot of clients, when they heard about us, either through the socials, and I can touch on that a bit later, our story really just resonated with them. They really wanted somebody to help them understand their businesses and to move them into the cloud. And certainly we had the skill set, we had the experience. And so it was literally this tsunami of people coming towards us. I mean, we were winning about a client a day, to the point where it was actually quite it was painful. We were growing so quickly, and we just didn't realize how quickly it was going to go. I mean, we had some pretty hefty goals that were just being met so quickly. It was a bit of a shock to all of us, to be honest. And we were worried about sales when we walked out the door, but we should have been worried about the resourcing component. But we learned very, very quickly. And certainly our tech stack and the automations behind that certainly helped us to achieve onboarding all of those clients and making sure that their needs were met.
Yeah. And so clearly you had this backdrop of clients that had loved working with you, but you also must have had a position in the market that really resonated with the needs of those clients. So I guess, what were you offering that was so different than the normal firm that folks were flocking towards you? Like, what were you saying? What were you saying? Like, come with us and you're going to get what? Like, why was it such an advantage to work with you?
I didn't make promises. I just told people how we would go about doing it. So I lead a lot with the why. Why are you in business? Why are you doing it? That resonated with a lot of people. They were very connected with their purpose and wanted to achieve something more. I was talking to them on an equal capacity. I wasn't talking down to them. It's a relationship. I want to support you. My job is to get you there. I was helping them to understand their business and their numbers. And I flipped the compliance on the head. I don't go out to win work to win a compliance job, as in an end of year accounts tax return. I want to be with you from the very beginning to the very end. So I want to help you set up your tech stack. I want to help you automate your business. I want to help you understand your numbers through advisory. I want to help you plan. I want to help you grow. I want to help you be whatever you want to be. And the outcome is a set of accounts and tax returns. So the way that I was speaking to them was very, very different. And I wanted to be a partner in their business, not just see me once a year, I'll tell you what tax you've got to pay. That's not how I go about it. And I think certainly in the Adelaide market in Australia, nobody had heard of that before. And and the other thing I also did was I specialize in tourism and hospitality and cloud services. And I had done that for a very long time. So cloud since 2010, THNL since for 25 years. And I built networks and connections in industry associations and also within my industry. So I was actually getting referrals from other accountants, from other bookkeepers, from lawyers, from bankers who knew what we did and had people that needed help. And so that certainly helped as well.
Yeah, and when you talk about understanding your numbers or helping your clients plan, like what's an example of or how do you tactically do that for your clients?
So the way that I actually run it is through workshops with my clients. I give away free workshops to clients and contacts, and it brings quite a few people into the room. And I sit them down and I work them through the absolute basics, because what we forget as accountants is we have all of this knowledge, but our clients do not. They go into business because they love what they do or they're passionate about it or they have a skill set. They don't understand how to make a profit or how to make cash. Sometimes they do and it's wonderful, but I'm not sure they actually understood how they've done it. And so I really just take it back to the basics, but I run these workshops for free to give away, I guess, knowledge that will empower them. And when you sit in a room with, say, 10 or 20 people and you tell them how to understand their numbers when they run businesses for maybe 20, 30 years and never really understood, all of a sudden, all of these light bulbs go off and they want to work with you. I can tell you every workshop I've ever run, I would walk away with 2 to 3 new clients every single time.
What's the most
clients.
surprising light bulb moment that you feel like is a very common thing? You're like, I never would have thought that would have been a light bulb moment for the audience, but it's like pretty consistent. Is it breaking down?
Do you know the most common thing? Is that profit doesn't equal cash, right? So actually tracking them through their profit and loss balance sheet and cash flow and actually how they all interlink. Sometimes it's a shock for people to realize they have a balance sheet. And they don't, this common question of, you're telling me that I've got tax to pay, but I don't have the money. Actually teaching them why and where that cash is a light bulb moment for them. And it's something that we just assume that they know, they don't.
And how are you getting the 10 or 20 people into that room? Is that through your network and referrals as well?
It's through network and referrals. It's also on the socials. So we play heavily in social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We've won clients from every single one of those mediums. And we do it organically. It's all in-house. We just try and keep it as real as it can be. We've get a lot of traction from that. So people may not be engaging that we see, but it's about branding and putting yourself basically in their face literally every day. And this subconscious thing happens where if they need you, all of a sudden they just think, oh, all in advisory. And then they make contact. So look, it certainly helped us from a social being point of view, and also those contacts and referrals, definitely. And also, you mentioned that we had a few awards. Other people are doing our branding for us. If you win an award, it's amazing how much traction that can get, how much credibility that can build. That was actually a strategy for us when we started out, to actually put in for some awards and see how it went. And we were incredibly lucky to have won a few, which helped to build that brand, helped to build that credibility.
Yeah, and you mentioned your network, but I think a lot of folks listening, they probably don't realize they have a really big network already that they're not communicating with or interacting with. But then B, what practically have you done to, for lack of a better word, work your network? Like, how are you maximizing the great reputation you have and the relationships you've built in a very thoughtful way? Are you sending one-to-one messages to remind people? Are you connecting with them often? What does that look like?
There's actually a couple of ways I do it. I worked at a firm called Deloitte, a little while ago, and I learned an enormous amount around branding and marketing for you as an individual, which I guess for most accountants, you don't actually think of yourself as a brand. But when I actually came to realize that's what it was, I had this light bulb moment myself. So I started being really strategic. So I specialize in tourism and hospitality. So I don't have an enormous amount of time because I have 3 kids at home. So I had to be really strategic with my time. So I found the best industry associations attached to tourism and hospitality. And I worked out who were the major players in that industry. And I would go to networking events and I would literally beeline to that person and I would introduce myself to them and start a relationship. I wouldn't ask anything of them. It would just literally be, want to get to know you, asking lots of questions. People love that. They love talking about themselves. And so I really just got to know them. And then I offered my services. I'd offered to run a workshop or I'd offered to do a presentation. And so I got a lot of one-on-one connections. If people asked to meet with me, I would, even if I couldn't see an instant connection, because it's amazing who people know. And giving my time, being kind, offering up, and helping, and always being consistent has really helped. But also on the socials, I realized the power of LinkedIn. When I moved from Deloitte to another firm called CMS, I'd connected with a lot of people over my time, but never really had a lot of engagement with them. But gosh, did I realize how much people were following my story when I moved. And that's when I actually realized the power of the social network and just continuing to post, continuing to share my story, continuing to give knowledge, and for me, it's around building community. And so that's a really authentic thing to me. That's something I love to do, to build relationships. And I've done it over a long period of time. It wasn't like I entered the market, worked hard for 6 months and got all these contacts. I actually was in this market for a long, long time and had given back to that industry for I didn't ask anything really. I just wanted to give because I'm really passionate about that industry. And I think a lot of that was then returned to me when we started All In, because people felt like, one, we were really clear on our message and who we were looking to help. So people understood that. And 2, they trusted us. And I think those 2 things together really helped to build this big bang of it just all kind of came together at once.
Yeah, I love it. And just, we're going to get into the capacity and fulfillment end of things, because I'm sure anybody listening right now is probably thinking 1 client a day. I mean, it makes you want to throw up if you don't have systems in place to or even if you do, I mean, it's just a mind-boggling workload in year 1. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about pricing. I also have to ask, just as a interested party, is All In, is that a reference to poker or not?
No, it's not. One of my favorite sayings, and I said it to clients a lot, was all in or all out. There's no halfway. And I kind of live my life that way. Another is that my name Aly has AL, and another lady that came with me from my prior firm starts with Lee. So put our names together, it's all. So just kind of fell into place. But no reference to poker. I don't even know how to play it.
Yeah, hey, fair enough. I had to ask. But so, with this modern firm, what is your approach to pricing? What are you selling packaged services? And when you started at year 1, what was the average client like paying you for a year, if you're or a range, whatever you're comfortable giving?
Yep. Okay. So because I had some clients that had come with me, and they were quite large. So, some of those fee bases were 50 and above. So I'll talk about, I guess, the new clients that kind of came on board and how I would price them. Because we were doing advisory packages, I like to fix a fee, but I don't have a particular package. I'll meet with the client, give them a lot of time initially, like an hour of my time to really unpack what they're looking for, what they need, what their experiences have been, what their why is. And then I will fix a fee that I then bill monthly through that period. And that would include depending upon what the client wanted, the cloud services and the automations and integrations, the bookkeeping, the planning, the advisory, and the year-end work. So some of them had all of it. Some of them had bits and pieces of it. Some of them I would start out, really hard early and then kind of taper off at the end once they'd learned their business a little bit. And so I would fix that fee, and that could range between 10 to 20,000. And that's about the average that we would do. So you can actually understand if you're trying to win a compliance job at 5K, but you can turn that into a 10 to 20, why wouldn't you? And the client's getting value along the way.
Yeah, the retention might skyrocket because that's what the client really
wants. It absolutely does, because you hold that whole relationship. That you're already a trusted advisor when you meet with them once a year and do their accounts and tax return. But when you flip that relationship into a daily, weekly, monthly relationship where you understand their business and understand why they're in business and that you're helping them achieve their goals, it is such a sticky relationship. And that's where we get a really strong referral source. So, even during COVID, it just hit warp speed. Because we were proactive with our clients, we were literally holding their hands. We were in front of them all the time to give them security. And that was a strategy for us. We wanted them to feel safe. They would then send our communications and socials on to people that weren't receiving that. So the inflood of clients we got from, my account hasn't said anything to me, I don't know what's going on, they're so busy. And that's another thing. I never tell my clients we're so busy, because it makes them feel like they wouldn't be able to refer anybody to us, or am I going to get looked after? So I always make them feel confident that we've got enough resources to cover their needs and expectations. But it's just amazing, I think, when you think about how you're communicating and what you're communicating and what your purpose for that communication is, it really does help to bring those referrals in.
Yeah. Well, you've built this engine. You have all these clients coming in. You have your pricing. You have your positioning. Kind of locked in almost from day one. And I love that you had to find the niche so early, right? It wasn't like we're going to help every business. It's like, this is my background. This is my interest. This is where I see the opportunity. So I love it, how methodical you were about launching your firm. But obviously it grew much faster than you thought. And so how did you think about the ratio of like how many clients, who do I need to hire? How did you start building the fulfillment part of your business, or the workflow part of your business? And how do you think about that even today?
So there was two clear phases. The first one was getting our tech stack right. So we were fully automated. We didn't actually have admin for like the first year because we wanted the tech to do a lot of the grunt work. So we put an enormous amount of work into our tech stack and made it work. And so we made sure that it was integrated with each other. So every single product we use has to be able to integrate to the other part. We don't do, processing information in one to then process it in another. We just don't do that. And then on top of that, we overlaid an enormous amount of systems and processes. So my way of looking at the business was, if anything can be done by tech, that's what we're going to do, number one. If it can't be done by tech, how do I then automate that? And that means systems and processes. So anything that is rote, which is an enormous amount actually of an accounting firm, I put a system and process in. And gosh, that was hard, because it just took so much time. And we used a product called Asana, which is like, for instance, in our transactional work, our bookkeeping, all of our clients have an Asana checklist, and that lists out day by day, minute by minute, every single task, who's responsible, so that somebody could come in tomorrow and literally do it. And behind that, we then use product like Loom for videos on how-tos. And then if we didn't do that, we'd have a procedure behind it. So every system that could be automated was. And that proved to me that we could grow quickly through scalability, because we did. So we relied heavily on the tech, heavily on the systems and processes.
Yeah, just to get a sense, because I think just to take a step back, because I think what you said is so outrageous. I want to make sure people didn't miss it. So first year, you didn't hire an admin person. In the first year of your firm, when people are experiencing growth that rapidly, that's almost the first hire that they take on, or second.
No.
So and to the extent you feel comfortable, what revenue did you reach, or how many clients were you supporting until you hired your first admin person?
Approximately 150.
150 clients.
Yes.
Wow. So just to, let that sit in for the audience, 150 clients. And at 150 clients, so if the admin hire wasn't the first hire, who was the first hire?
Oh, so my first hire, well, I came across obviously as the founder principal, and Lee, my general manager, came with me. Our first hire was a senior accountant, who we'd worked with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We then hired, so then we went to TOA Global, which is outsourcing, because we were growing so quickly. And we hired a bookkeeper and an accountant. And then we hired the support and admin support.
Wow. And so walk me through and I love the point of it's like, we're growing. We need the tools, or we need to automate it. We need a standard list of procedures. We need to have videos so people can walk through it before we make the hire. Because what we've seen is, if you make the hire, then guess what? You want to make another hire, and you start going down this path where you're always solving problems through the hire,
and that's not the answer.
Yeah.
It causes so many pain points, and resourcing is the most expensive part of our business. So I want to make sure that is being utilized in the best way, and not through, stop gapping, training somebody when it shouldn't really take an hour of somebody's time. It's literally a video that somebody watches for 15 minutes. So anything that we do repetitively, or that could be put in a process, is where we spend an enormous amount of time. And I'm not joking, it hurt. There was a lot of time spent on that, but gosh, the reward that we get now, like, it most probably took us a year to get those systems and processes down pat. But now the reward that we're getting from that, it's paid for itself enormously. And you know what? The big thing is, I tell my clients to do this on a daily basis. So I'm not going to be the fraud who doesn't do it myself. So everything I ever said to my clients, I had to live that myself. And that was actually one of the reasons we went out on our own. I felt like a fraud because I couldn't get the firms that I worked with to do what I was telling my clients to do. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to prove that it could be done, and we did. And so for that, I'm grateful, but we needed the support of the tech partners to do that. I couldn't have done this without the tech. We needed support of TOA Global, who were able to resource us quickly and correctly. So all of those things had to come into place. But, I had so many ideas because I'd been in professional practice for so long, and I'd worked in, micro, small, mid, large, big four. I'd seen the full gamut. So I kind of took the best pieces of everything and thought, I'll just do it myself. Thanks.
And we'll have to link up, because we've interviewed Nick from TOA, but I guess walk us through your current organizational chart, and then including the folks that you've been able to work with at TOA, because their model is they'll give you kind of a one-to-one outsourced bookkeeper, right? And so
yeah,
I guess
we treat them like they're our staff.
Yeah, right, perfect. And so, what is your current organizational chart today then?
Yep. So there's me, my general manager, who basically, I do more the sales and marketing. My GM looks after the operational tech stack, systems and processes, HR type stuff. We have a senior compliance person, and we have a TOA member supporting them. We then have in our transactional, the Lee, who kind of heads up the transactional space, managing that. We then have Joe from TOA, and half a resource in Chris from TOA. So every Australian team member has a support member in the Philippines. We also have Eliza, who we've put on for payroll. So payroll in Australia is a very complex system, and we punch well above our weight with the types of clients we do all of the back end payroll for. So hundreds of staff. And so we needed someone to specialize. So we brought her on to specialize. And we also have now Helena, who was our admin assistant, who is now moving into that transactional space. And so we've just replaced her with another admin assistant. So we have three.
Who reports to you, and who reports to the GM, or how does that work?
Most report to the GM. I do
Yeah.
check in and do once every 2 months, I'll check in with my team and do their 12-week plans. But in saying that, I guess we're a flat organization in the sense that everybody can come to me. Like, we have an open floor office. So I'm on the floor with everybody else. I know exactly what's going on. And we have a really informal, I guess, space where everybody kind of knows everyone's business. So the reporting around, if something's from an accounting perspective, it goes to Rhett. If Rhett doesn't know, it goes to Lee. If Lee doesn't know, it goes to me. And from a transactional point of view, same. We go up that list. But the way that I've resourced is this. We have a person on the ground in Australia to help with the relationship and any high level stuff, any advisory work, all the systems and processes and rote processing we get done by the Philippines. And then everything else is the technology. So that's how I've kind of layered my organization. And a big play that TOA talk about, and also I really believe in, is making sure people are doing the right jobs and doing the right things. So even though you can do it, should you be doing it? And making sure that people are doing the right level work. That's been really, really important to us.
Yeah. At a high level, when you say 12-week plans, what is that?
Oh, so my team basically have a 12-week plan that we run through, and it talks about their why. It talks about, I guess, their key performance indicators, what goals they have over the next 12 weeks. So big goals and then broken down into micro goals. It just helps to keep them, I guess, aligned to our why, and tracking to a goal. And it's not just all business goals. It can be personal goals as well, like running a marathon or, finishing your studies. It could be any of those things, but it's a really great way to have a conversation with a team member. And it just opens up the conversation piece. And it's not just, okay, so you've met your productivity. How's your write-offs going? It's so much broader than that. My team are my superstars. Without them, we don't function. And because we work in advisory, we need to have great relationships with our clients. And that means my team needs to connect with them. And so I want to make sure on a holistic level that everything is okay and that I'm supporting them across everything. And so those 12-week plans is really more about a determined connection point so that we can actually sit down and talk about how are things going, me investing time into them, and feeling like they've got some value.
Yeah, okay. I love it. I love that idea. It's such a big takeaway. There's so many big takeaways today. Before we wrap up, I have to ask, and this in of itself is an entire interview, so maybe we just have to do part 2. I don't know. Some of the things you talked about publicly was kind of, the concept of having it all. How do you juggle home life with work life? You're a mom, you have a few kids, right? And you're running a business. The business reached its goal in 1 year instead of 5. Things are blowing up for you. So, I mean, can you have it all? I mean, how do you develop the framework, the structure, the lifestyle to both run a highly successful practice while still, being present at home?
Yeah, and in answer to can you have it all? Yes. But it's different for every single person. And, whatever that means to you, I think, one, you need to decide what that is. And for me, it was about having my own business and also having a family and being present and being engaged. So from the moment my first was born, she's now 15, I have worked part-time. So I was very, very clear on setting boundaries. So I work Monday to Thursday, and I've done that for forever. And so my clients understand that, my team understand that. And so clearly communicating what your boundaries are is incredibly important. Resourcing so that you can maintain that lifestyle. I do over-resource, and I do it so that we can all have a lifestyle. That's my personal choice. So I do that as well. But I had a moment really early on in my parenting where there was my marriage pretty much blew up in a day. And at that point, I realized what is important to me. And I'm actually incredibly glad it happened really early on my stage of, motherhood, because it engaged me in a way that made me really, really clear about what was important to me. So when I'm with the kids, I am present, I am engaged. You have my full attention. I will go to their school events. I am there for you. I am going to pick you up and drop you off. And so being able to start a firm which is fully cloud-based, so I'm not stuck in an office anywhere, and that helped during COVID, I can tell you. And having that technology to support me. So I rely heavily on the tech, heavily on my resourcing so that I can engage at home. And I actually have if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I have a little story video that I've just put up recently. Watch that. And it's about, I worked for a particular partner for about 13 years, and he wouldn't promote me past manager. And we had this really open conversation about why that might be. And he basically said to me, "Aly, you can't have it all." And I just really fought that concept of why are you telling me I can't have it all? Who are you to say that to me? And it kind of made me have this really clear moment of, well, yes, I can, but I need to be strategic. So I'm very strategic, very goal orientated. I have plans and I meet them. But I also know my resource that I'm lowest on is time. So that's my most important thing. And that's the most precious thing to me. So how do I manage that? And so I'm very, very conscious of time, boundaries, things like that.
Yeah, amazing. And you know, we covered such a wide range of topics, and I mean, there's so many nuggets and tips and tactics to pick up here. But you know, if somebody's listening to this interview and they do want to reach out to you on LinkedIn or learn more about you and your services and everything you put out in the ecosystem, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
So All in Advisory is our social tag. Look that up. You'll be able to follow us. Also under it's either Aly Garrett or Alison Garrett, either one on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to connect with people personally. So if you send me a connection, I'll definitely connect with you. And yeah, follow us, see the journey. And I'm just one of these people. I love building community. So if you hear the podcast and want to have a bit of a chat, connect with me. I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. If you're listening right now and you couldn't jot down all the notes, what we're going to do is going to do a full summary of today's interview at jetpackworkflow.com/blog, jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We're going to link up your LinkedIn, your website, maybe a couple other resources you might have mentioned, all on that summary page. I highly encourage everybody listening, if this really resonated with you, reach out to Aly. If this really, really resonated to you, leave a review and share this with a fellow firm owner that might need to hear some of the information we talked about today. Aly, this has been a real treat. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great. Thank you.